Hi there, Terry back again. Hope I find you well. And you've been buying lots of books and reading lots of books. I've been doing a lot of the buying just recently, but I've been doing a lot of the reading, so I must get back to that. I would like to thank the people that are subscribing, getting me ever closer to the 250, when I'm going to be giving away this and those. And then, if you can find some friends that haven't already subscribed, so I can get to that 250, that would be great. If you won't mind, a thumbs up and commenting and doing all those sort of lovely things, that's even better. Thank you very much. But as the thumbnail says, it is time for Superman Action 1966. And we start with Action 332, Jan cover date. And this is Kurt Swan, of course. Both stories in this issue are written by Leo Dorfman. The art of the first one is by Jim Mooney. And this is one of those imaginary stories that was retconned and actually happened on Earth 332. How Superwoman trained Superboy. And the Superman story, the art by Al Plastino, is the super revenge of Lex Luthor. Superman visits Lexor, the planet named after him, or named after Luthor, that is, and accidentally reveals to the planet's inhabitants the true evil life of Luthor on Earth. Luthor escapes prison yet again and arrives on Lexor. He soon finds he isn't wanted. His wife Adora lets him know she still loves him, but she can no longer have him around. He goes back to Earth and plots his revenge on Superman. Next, we have Superman 182, Jan 66. First one cover. And this cover story, The Menace of the Terrible Toyman. It's written by Leo Dorfman and the art by Kurt Swan and George Klein. And the cover says it all, other than that's not Superman on the cover. And then we have Blind Clark Kent. Jerry Siegel writing, Kurt Swan and George Klein back with the art. And a flash of light that would have blinded a normal man forces Clark to pretend to be blind. He leaves the Daily Planet and has a go at a butler and an English disc jockey, like you do. Action 333, February cover date. Kurt Swan again with the cover. And this one is Superman's Super Boo-Boos. And he carries on from last issue. Lex plays mind games with Superman, causing him to do foolish things. And soon the coup de grace. Leo Dorfman writing, Al Plastino the artist. And then we have an imaginary story, the duel between Superwoman and Superboy. Yet again, continuation of the last issue. Also written by Leo Dorfman and by Jim Mooney. Superboy has his powers removed by gold kryptonite and his memory erased, being Kryptonian. So no Superman on planet Earth 332, it seems. Then we have an annual. Superman 183, cover date Jan 66. And this is Kurt Swan, George Klein doing the cover. Plus a few others I would have thought with these two stories. But there you go. Stories from Superman 19, December 1942. The case of the funny paper crimes. And as you can see on the cover, it says people will pay up to $30 for a perfect copy. Now that's more like $4,000 plus. And this story also has the first appearance of Funnyface. He does appear 40 plus years later in All-Star Squadron and Superman Family. Then we have a story from Superman 125, November 58, Clark Kent's college years, and Action 262, March 60, when Superman lost his powers. And then from Superman number 30, October 1944, the first appearance of the mysterious Mr. Mxyzptlk. Also the first mention of the fifth dimension, where he hails from. This issue sells for around $8,000 at this moment in time. And then we have, also from Superman 19, December 42, Superman Cartoon Hero. And then the last story in this issue is from Action Comics 250 from March 59, and that is the Eye of Metropolis. Then a February cover date, Superman 184, Kurt Swan, George Klein and Irish Snap doing the cover this time. And as per the cover, the demon under the red sun. Superman investigates the phenomenon of Zonda, a world which zags through space, but is trapped on its. But then Superman is trapped on it among its primitive people, and then it chances to near a red sun. There you go. And we have another annual, this being the very first annual Action Comics banner on, and it's dedicated to Supergirl. And it has in this her first appearance from Action 252, May 59. Then we have the Cave Girl of Steel from number 259, December 59. Then from 269 we have Supergirl's first romance, but we never hear from Freddie Blake again. That was from October 60. And then Supergirl's Super Pet is the first time we meet Streaky, and that's from February 60. Then Supergirl's Fortress of Solitude, which, as you know, from 1960 Superman video, from my 1960 Action Superman video, lasted this whole issue until it didn't. And then we have 267, The Three Superheroes, August 60. That's the first appearances of Chameleon Boy, Colossal Boy, and Invisible Kid. And this is for Matt of Matt Loves Comics, something he probably knows due to his love of the Legion. But this story was changed in the original. The three Legion members claim to be the children of the three members that Superboy met even, back in Adventure Comics 247, April 1958. It's felt they abandoned this so Supergirl and Superboy could be members at the same time. Then from Superboy 80, Superboy meets Supergirl from April 60. And lastly, from Action 292, September 62, the Super Steed of Steel. It's not his first appearance. That was yet again another Adventure Comics, number 293, February 62. But this is the first time Supergirl or Linda Lee met him. Then we have 335, March 66, Kurt Swan cover. Luthor's first victory over Superman. Leo Dorfman, writing and art by Al Plastino. Luthor continues to make Superman's life a misery, but the ending quote tidies the story up for a while. Superman, what you did for Adora squares us, for now. But be on guard. The universe won't be big enough to hold the two of us the next time we meet. And Supergirl's story is The Prize of Peril, written by Otto Binder, art by Jim Mooney. Supergirl uses her powers to win a literal Miss Universe contest, then enters a Miss Cosmos contest, all to stop a killer who disfigures the winners. Supergirl stops him, but is disfigured. See next issue. Superman 185, April cover date. Superman's Achilles heel. Another Kurt Swan cover there. And the writer's Leo Dorfman and the art by Al Plastino. And I think the cover explains it all. And the second story is Target Superman. Leo Dorfman writes and Jim Mooney with the art. A multi-millionaire wants his daughter to marry Superman, but she prefers Clark, and a double of Clark from Candle steps in to woo her. 336, April, cover date. The Forbidden Fortress of Solitude. Otto Binder writes and Jim Mooney with the art. Another Kurt Swan cover. Supergirl is trying to find a cure for her disfigured face. This tale includes Bizarro's Dick Malvern and real unsubtle ending. Superman in The Man from the Phantom Zone. Edmund Hamilton writing, Kurt Swan and George Klein being the artists. We get to meet Akbar after completing his 30 years in the Phantom Zone. It's not long before he's accused of breaking the law, and Superman jumps in to his defence. Is he guilty or innocent? Superman 186 from May. Kurt Swan, George Klein and Irish Nap doing the art. The Two Ghosts of Superman. Well, the cover is mighty confusing, and so is the story. The second story is Clark Kent Gangster. A newspaper strike creates the opportunity for Clark to become Pete the Pen Man, and he joins a gang. Why? Read the tale to find out. Action 337, May 66. Kurt Swan cover. From riches to rags, Leo Dorfman and Al Plastino being the artist. Oh, the writer and artist. Superman has a compulsion to take on various roles. This was caused by something that happened to him as a child back on Krypton. And next, the Green Sun Supergirl. Story Otto Binder, art by Jim Mooney. Supergirl is testing out a new spacesuit for the US government. She, of course, gets caught in a space warp, sending her to an unknown solar system with a green sun, so nullifying her powers. But like I told you when Superman was trapped on a green sun planet, like him, she would not lose her powers, as our sun is also green, along with every other colour of the rainbow. Look it up on YouTube. After watching or finishing watching this, of course. 11 minutes in. Another 80-page giant, Superman 187, June 66. Kurt Swan and Jules Klein doing the art. The stories from Action 261, Fortress of Solitude, February 1960. Jimmy Olsen, number 53, Boy in the Bottle, June 61. Action 164, Hall of Trophies, Jan 52. Lois Lane 14, for 3 nights in the Fortress of Solitude, Jan 1960. Action 244 for the Super Merman of the Sea, the Super Merman of the Sea, September 58. Action 233, The Land of a Million Supermen, October 57. Then we have Action 338, June 66, Kurt Swan and George Klein doing the cover. We get to meet Superman 20 again in Muto, Monarch of Menace. And this is Muto's first appearance. And this was set in 2966. It's not the seawater, it's the atomic fallout in it. If you look at the cover, that is his Achilles heel now. And then Jerry Siegel writes, The Villain Who Married Supergirl. Art as usual by Jim Mooney. Yes, another disguised alien falls in love with Supergirl. But this is part of a very intertwined story, a love triangle, murder, and planet destroying. Good fun. Superman 188, July 66. Kurt Swan, George Klein cover. And just one story in this issue. The School for Superman Assassins. Otto Binder writes, Kurt Swan and Sheldon Moldoff do the art. We have the Superman android and the real Superman dying, then lots of destruction, sacrificing, and super memorizing. It's a pretty good tale. Action 339, July 66. Kurt Swan and George Klein doing the art. On the cover. Muto versus the Man of Tomorrow. Thinking Superman is dead from last issue, Muto enlarges the population of this future metropolis. Superman thwarts this because of course he isn't dead, and finds an ingenious way of getting rid of Muto forever, he hopes. The Supergirl tale, Brainiac Blitz, is written by a 14-year-old Jim Shooter. This was 2 stories he wrote that were published on the same day. A Legion of Superheroes story was also published in Avenger Comics 346, entitled One of Us is a Traitor. He also penciled that. Not bad for a 14-year-old. First work as a writer. Brainiac Split's art was by Jim Mooney. Supergirl is trapped by Brainiac in a trap meant for Superman. This is how she can escape. And guess why? It's in this issue. Then we have Superman, August 1966, Kurt Swan and George Klein. Tom lives again. Otto Binder writing, Wayne Boring with the art. This story is so out there, it shouldn't come back. In fact, it shouldn't have been told. When a planet can tow a sun behind it, everything beggars belief. Action 340, August 66. Kurt Swan, George Klein, Irish Snap doing the cover, and this is the first appearance of the Parasite in The Power of the Parasite. And to cut a short story shorter, he takes too much power from Superman and seemingly explodes into nothingness. So it's just 21 issues before he comes back. Another creation of Jim Shooter writing and Al Plastino with the art. And then Leo Dorfman writing and Jim Mooney with the art for the Supergirl Identity Hunt. And it's another Is She or Isn't Supergirl Linda Lee Danvers? But a visit to the dentist sorts this one out. Action 341, September 66. Superman versus Super Clark Kent. Otto Binder and Al Plastino with the art. Kurt Swan with the cover. And this is another escapee from the planet, or from the Phantom Zone even. And will he or won't he go back? And the Supergirl story is a reprint from Action 217, November 60. The Four Helpless Heroes by Jerry Siegel and art by Jim Mooney. Superman 190, October cover date. Kurt Swan with the cover. The Four Element Enemies. Writer Jim Shooter, artist Wayne Boring. Amalek, a planetary conqueror, endows four humans with the power to transform into the four elements. He programs them to destroy Superman. Action 342, October 66. Kurt Swan and George Klein. Titled The Superhuman Bomb. Another Jim Shooter tale with Wayne Boring, the artist. Now, I think the cover tells you all you need to know. I was just looking at the population as well. Obviously expanded in 60 years. And also in that issue, the day Supergirl became an Amazon by Otto Binder and the art by Jim Mooney. And the story proves it can be an advantage and disadvantage to having superpowers, depending on who you are. And then the last issue for Superman for 66, or 66 cover date anyway, is number 191, covered by Kurt Swan. The Prisoner of Demon. Jim Shooter and Al Plastino with the writing and art and the art even. And the Maharaja of Sin Sub Hani gives Superman a power jewel formed at the heart of the universe and bids him wear it to keep it from an evil organization called Demon, which seeks to claim it. Well, looking at that cover, that worked out well. 343, November 66. Kurt Swan, George Klein and Irish Snap with the cover. Eterno the Immortal. Writer Jim Shooter, Wayne Boring with the art. And this is the Superman Revenge Squad find a super robot called Eterno. And by the end of the tale, they wish they hadn't. And the Supergirl story is another reprint, this time from Jimmy Olsen number 40, October 59. Otto Binder writes, and Kurt Swan and John Forte were the artists. Called Jimmy Olsen's Supergirls. And lastly for 1966, Action 344, December. Cover date, obviously. Kurt Swan, George Klein, Irish Step doing the art. Superman's Nightmare Dreams. It's Otto Binder writes, Wayne Boring the art. And after an experiment in which Superman's mind is briefly put into Batman's body, and vice versa, and brief exposure to red kryptonite, he has recurring dreams which symbolize Batman, Robin, and their arch foes. And lastly, Supergirl in the greenhouse. Supergirl comes across yet another parallel universe and ends up as a president of the Earth-like planet. Many take umbrage of this, so fun ensues. Jim Shooter wrote it, and Jim Mooney did the art. So that's it for 66. Remember to thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Ever closer to the 250 as I said. Please comment on the 1966. I love comments and I like commenting on comments, you know that. So please comment away. Thumbs up, comment away, and subscribe. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.